It's a massive TBR. Welcome back to Read Becca. We're gonna do a TBR of doom this month for September. I have been thinking about this, but hadn't really collected my thoughts on it until now, and now I'm looking at piles of books all around me, and it's a lot. But this is gonna be like a pile of possibilities situation versus reading every single book. So it's we will see what we get through. So last year, I'm pretty sure I did kind of a similar thing, at least in terms of my theme for the TBR, and I'm calling it TBRTEMBER. I know a lot of people have series goals. They're doing series or sequel September, so that's sort of similar, except a lot of these are not sequels. I'm targeting reading stuff from my wide variety of TBRs. I have past TBRs from individual months. I have my physical TBR shelf for the whole year. I have a library TBR shelf in Goodreads. So I have a number of different ways that I'm kind of coming at this. So let's get at the books, because this is going to be a whole massive pile. So first, let's talk about library books, because I have a couple library books that I had already checked out going into this month. So I do still want to get to those, and I'm going to change my strategy for the library for this month a little bit, possibly, maybe not, because I can't resist the library. But in any case, we're going to only put these two on my library TBR for now. So for this month, number one is one that is not on any TBR. So this is the only one that I'm giving myself a pass, purely because I picked it up because I wanted to, and that's The Pretty One by Kia Brown. This is a collection of essays, I believe, and very much so about the intersection of being a Black woman and being disabled. So she has cerebral palsy, and I think these are going to be very, very funny and fun to read for the most part. I think she has a children's book either out or coming out very soon about seats, and that was something that someone mentioned. I don't remember who exactly talked about this. I very specifically recall two people talked about this, and you are the reason that I picked this up. I wandered over to the disability section of my library, and they had it on the shelf, so I just grabbed it based on having seen it on somebody else's channel, but I don't remember who it was. So if you talked about this, count it as yourself. So yeah, so I think there's a big seating element. I think there's a lot of pop culture stuff. I think it's going to be great reading. And I don't think I'm going to talk a ton about all of these books because I have so many. So the next one does count for being on a TBR. This one is, I can't actually remember if it's on my 5-star predictions TBR. I do need to get to more of those, but I think it might be on both my 5-star predictions and on my library TBR for this year. So I'm knocking it 2 things off there. But that is The Holo Kingdom by Kyra Jane Buxton. This is kind of a dystopian zombie novel about a crow, a domesticated crow named ST, or Shit Turd. And Shit Turd has been domesticated by an owner who also has a dog, and the owner starts acting very strangely, which turns out to be this zombie apocalypse. And so Shit Turd rides the dog off to figure out what's going on. And that's about all I know about it. That's all I would need to know about it. I think it's extremely irreverent, and you are in the bird's perspective from what I understand. I've heard a couple of people, Paper Traveler specifically, love this, but this was actually on my radar before I ever heard anybody talk about it, before it came out, and I still have not gotten to it. And the sequel's already out as well, and yeah, I just need to get to this one. Then we have a Shorty September pick. So these are from my yearly TBR. I've got Binti number 3, The Night Masquerade. So this is the final book of the Binti trilogy, and I read the first 2, really enjoyed them. This is kind of it's mostly sci-fi, but there's a little bit fantastical, I would say, to it. Definitely it's all about this girl Binti, who is from kind of an Africa or maybe pseudo-African nation, who is in a very tribal culture, and they discourage her wanting to go off to this university and be the first person to go to this space university. And she kind of does it anyway and finds herself and is wrapped up in this weird situation with aliens and alien technology. Yeah, that kind of sets her apart. So it's very much about connection with both your home and being separate. in a lot of ways. And so I don't know what this specific volume is about. The last one, Home, was really powerful about her literally coming home from university and seeing how much she'd changed, that sort of thing, and also reestablishing some roots. So I will be interested to see where this one goes and wrapping up the series. So that's Shorty September. The other readathon I'm trying to work in that I have one from my physical TBR for the year, and this is also good for my goal of 500 page or more tomes, because I've been really slacking on that, is for September, The Queens of Innislear by Tessa Gratton. I've been wanting to read this. It is a chunky one. This is a retelling of King Lear. So yeah, I need to get to it. I think what I want to do is watch King Lear, find a production of that online and watch it, and read the book afterwards. So this one is gonna have to be like very soon. Like, I'm probably gonna watch the play very soon within the next week and then get onto this, because this is a long chunky one. I think this is fantasy. It's got 3 sisters, and one of them's like a warrior, one of them is like a sorcerer, and the other one is a priest. And so they each have these very different roles in their kingdom, and I think there's some possible backstabbery or politicking. So yeah, I'm very interested in this because I think it has a lot of feminist elements, and that high fantasy retelling is just always in my wheelhouse. So those are the actual TBR. Everything else from here on is just additional stuff. It's stuff I want to get to, and that's because the remainder of my pile is every book that I have had on a TBR for the past year-ish since I started BookTube, but did not actually read. So we're gonna shame myself with books I wanted to get to and haven't gotten to. And I'm not actually ashamed about that at all. But let's run through them very quickly, because there's a lot here. So first, from Garb August, is Magic Kingdom for Sale by Terry Brooks. This is a comedic fantasy. It's a little chunkier than I was thinking it was. It seemed kind of short, but I think that's going to be a fun, humorous one. Another fun, humorous one is Tales from Gavigan's Bar by L. Sprague de Camp and Fletcher Pratt. And again, this was for my Garb August TBR, and I didn't get to it. I think this is a collection of like interconnected stories, and again, it's kind of fantastically. And then this one is like a sci-fi, Boundary by Eric Flint and Rick E. Spoor. And this one is another over 500. So I think this might be an easy read, even though it's quite long. So I might be able to catch back up on my tome reading if I can get this and Queens of Innislear in. Next, we have Ian Tregillis, Bitter Seeds. So this is a really cool one. It's World War II, but with magic warlocks on one side and supermen on the other. So it's that sort of alt history, but with fantasy elements. Very, very cool. And this is like a really well-held series that people love a lot. So I've been wanting to get into it. Then we have a sci-fi, that is An Excess Male by Maggie Shen King. And this one is kind of as it sounds like. It's a like a reproductive dystopia type situation, or gender dystopia, where because of gender politics, there are more men in marriages than women. So I think I said that backwards, or I said it in a way that would be read backwards, where women marry multiple men, and so the extra husband is an excess male, basically, I think, or they're less desirable. So, and this is all based off of the China one-child policy. So I think this is going to be a really interesting one. And I read a book last year that I wanted to tie into this one because it was a similar premise, but switched, where there were multiple wives and the second wives were less desirable, basically. So I was wanting to tie that in, and I never got back to it. And then we have another one from the Shadows of the Alcuin's Court by Benedict Patrick. This is book number 3 or 4 in the Yarns World series, which I really love, and I have not read it in multiple years, so I need to get back to the series. that's another high fantasy one. A historical fiction. We've got Of Men and Angels by Brock and Bodie Taney. These are historians who write a lot of different styles and settings, and this one specifically, the Galway Chronicles, I have read this before, so this is a reread, is set during the Irish potato famine. So it's a really good story about kind of that major occurrence of the Irish potato famine, but from looking at the kind of local politics and the interaction between the landlords and the people that are like tenant farmers there. So really interesting stuff. And then another sci-fi, we've got Waste Tide by Chen Kui-fan. I read a short story by this author and really enjoyed it, and this one has been on my radar. This is like a climate dystopia with the Waste Tide is like a trash island type thing. So I think these people are scavengers, more or less, to that trash island. And the last one, it was one of my bargain books that I pulled out for Women in Translation Month, I think, last year as an option. This is a thriller. I think Natsuo Carino is probably most well known for Out, a big chonky one, but I fortunately have this much slimmer volume. So this Real World was an earlier book, I believe, and it is a translated thriller. So I really would like to read this. So those are all of the options, and those are all obviously books I own except for those first two library books. So what that means for me in terms of library, I think I am going to focus my library utilization on audiobooks this month. And I think I'm going to try to keep myself toward reading books off of my physical TBR shelf, other than these, via audio, just to keep chipping away at those. If I can, as much as I can kind of find books there. So I've got a couple in mind that I would love to get to soon, and we'll see if I can do that. But regardless of what I'm doing, I did just swap over from Overdrive to Libby. I don't know if everybody's being forced to do that or if that's just with my library, but we are being forced off of Overdrive onto Libby, and I have still been using the Overdrive app. I'm not totally sold on Libby, but it has not been as much of an annoyance as I expected it to initially. I've been trying it out for the past couple weeks, and so far it's okay. I am liking that it has, you can make tags on there, so I have a couple of tags set up to group things in ways that I want that I didn't have before, so that has been handy. But overall, I don't like the interface as much, I don't think. However, I'm getting used to it. So I think that is my plan, the general broad plan. This is way too much. So I'm not planning on reading these in any specific order other than prioritizing those first 4 books. And then the rest of the backlog of TBR books, we're gonna just try to work through as many as possible. So let me know which of those books I should be prioritizing if you've read them, because I'm gonna need some help. That's an awful lot of books. So that's my semi-TBR for the next month in September. Let me know what you're reading and give me some good vibes that I'm gonna actually get through a good chunk of this. Thanks so much for watching.